Welcome back to the For Your Good podcast. I'm your host, Zae Hudson, and we're back with Babe again to discuss deliverance. So I want you to share, Babe, what you felt like you were delivered from, what you feel like deliverance is, right? Because you thought you had this moment. So I want you to start off with sharing the addiction you had that you were delivered from. Let's start there.
Going right into it, no small talk.
No small talk. What are we small talking about?
Mm-hmm.
We just gotta hop right into it.
What year was it? It was
2021.
1980.
It was, I think it was 2021, because it was like right before we moved down here. So like summer, early summer 2021.
I don't know why I feel weird talking on camera today. I don't know
Why?
what it is. I don't know. I feel weird. All right, so 2021. I was smoking cigarettes.
And when did you start smoking cigarettes?
16.
16 years old. So what year was that?
2013.
2013.
Right?
I don't know.
You graduated in 14,
Yes.
so yeah, it was 2012 or 2013.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so from 2012 up until 2021, you were smoking cigarettes.
Yep.
Or 2020, right?
Yeah, faithfully.
Okay, so talk about what brought you to a place where you were kind of like tired of smoking cigarettes.
No, it's actually crazy. I should be more enthusiastic about this story because I was just telling mad people about it.
Yeah.
To the day, I think it's been, how many years? It's been, I think, a little over 3 years. It was like $8,000 saved in cigarettes.
Yeah. So like he had this app basically that tells you like how many cigarettes you would have smoked like once you stopped, how much money you're saving by not smoking cigarettes. It even tells you like your health benefits, right? So he's tracking on that app. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, and I've tried to quit multiple times too, but every single time I tried to quit, it was like, and I would do stupid stuff when I tried to quit too, like, because I hate wasting money.
Yeah,
so I would do stupid stuff like, oh yeah, I'm gonna quit smoking, and you know what? If I do buy a pack of cigarettes, I'm gonna smoke one cigarette out the pack, and I'm gonna throw the
rest
other
away
to punish myself, and that didn't do anything but just waste money. But yeah, I would try mad times, nothing worked. It wasn't until
he also vaped, because there was a period of time where like you got more into vaping.
Yeah, I stopped smoking for a while and I vaped, and then the vaping was crazy because I was sucking on the thing all day.
Yeah, and that was expensive too.
Constantly. Yeah, that was a super expensive habit. But then when in Colorado, I was smoking and vaping.
Yeah.
At the same time. But yeah, it wasn't until we're living in Bethlehem. And I would go out to my car a couple times, and I would be smoking, and I would throw the cigarette butts next to the car, and I would spit when I smoke. Because something about smoking a cigarette, I would always spit. So I hated the taste kind of like in a weird way. So I would spit on the floor. So it was like all the cars that were parked on that street, only next to my car, it was just a pile of like 50, 60, 70 cigarette butts and just spit.
So let me put a pin in that. How many would you smoke a day? How many cigarettes you would smoke a day, you think?
It depends on the day, but a day where I'm also smoking weed, probably like 16, 17 cigarettes.
16 probably. A day. So how many packs is that?
Because I would sit there, I would smoke, I would get high, and then I would just chain smoke cigarettes while I'm listening to music or something.
How many packs is that, you think?
Like a pack, not a pack, but like maybe a little over half a pack a day.
Okay, half a pack a day. Okay. Yeah. So you said by your car, there was a pile of 50 or 60 cigarette butts, right?
Wake up. Not wake up, but like I should get excited. Like this is a good topic.
Yeah.
Devil don't want me to tell this one.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
You good? Okay. So by your car, there's 50 or 60 cigarette butts. And you said you would spit.
It was nasty. Like I remember I'm sitting there because like, the door would always be open. I wouldn't have my car running, but I would just be sitting there smoking. And I'm just looking down at it. I'm just like, yo, that's disgusting. Because every once in a while, I'll go and pick them up, and they'd be stuck onto the ground, like baked there. And like, you would just see like nasty, like white little rings, like around everything from all the spit. Like, yo, it was disgusting. Wow. It was disgusting. And you could tell nobody else's car looked like that, or around their car looked like that. It was just mine.
Yeah.
And a lot of people smoke, but I was the only one just disgusting enough to just leave them
all there.
But it wasn't. That's not the thing that disgusted me. It was just like. So anyway, so as I'm sitting there. I don't know what came over me, but I don't know if it was because I smoked so many in one sitting when I was sitting there. But it was, I said a prayer, but it wasn't really a prayer. It was like an exclaim. Like I just let out a sigh of like, I was exhausted of it. I literally sat there. I looked at the cigarette and I'm looking at it. I'm just like, God, free me from this. Like, I can't even do it the way that I did it. But it was like out loud, verbally, like I was just done. Like I was so done with smoking. I was like, yo, free me from this, please. Like, I'm tired of smoking these. That's what I said. And I threw the cigarette down, and I swear, immediately, I can't equate it to anything. Like, if you smoke cigarettes, you know the feeling of having to smoke cigarettes. Yeah. But it literally, and I'm gonna sound like I'm being theatrical.
No, just like, you share what you gotta share.
Like, the metaphor is too similar to what deliverance is, but it felt like I had shackles on me. I felt like I had chains on me. It felt like I had a collar around my neck. Not while I'm smoking. I'm saying, like, in the moment. In
that moment.
I realized what it was. Not realized, but like, this is what I'm equating to what it felt like. It felt like suddenly I felt these things just
break.
Like, I just felt it fall off of me. Like, I'm like, I don't have to smoke anymore. Like, I just knew. And I didn't tell you. Remember?
No, right. You didn't tell me until the day after.
The day after, because everybody knows if you smoke cigarettes, is when you first wake up. That's the most, the cigarette you're looking forward to the most. Yeah. When after you eat, that cigarette is the best cigarette. It's like a dessert cigarette. It's disgusting. It's a dessert cigarette. I didn't want the dessert cigarette. It wasn't until that night I told you, like, babe, I don't need to smoke anymore. Yeah. Like, it was, and ever since then. And now, granted, I'm not going to say that's the last time I smoked a cigarette. That's the last time I needed to smoke a cigarette. Fast forward, I didn't smoke a cigarette for exactly 1 year. And I remember telling myself, a year from now, I'm going to grab a cigarette. I don't know why. I mean, people would be like, oh, yeah, you're testing, like, you're playing with God. But it was more like, I promised myself a year on the anniversary date of me stop smoking, I'm going to smoke a cigarette and see what it feels like. So I remember that very first year, I grabbed a cigarette and I lit it. That was the first time I smoked a cigarette since that day. And I was like, yo, that's crazy. It's still nothing. Like, I couldn't even finish the cigarette. Like, I couldn't even inhale it. And I'm like, nah, that's crazy. Like, I don't even need it. It's gross. And then fast forward, every once in a while, I'll still pick one up. Like, I wouldn't have, like, the urge to smoke. And that's another thing that's crazy. So it's like, when you try to quit smoking cigarettes, all it takes is somebody, you see them on TV smoking a cigarette, and you want to smoke a cigarette.
Right.
But that's not what it was this time. Like, I had no urge to smoke a cigarette at all. People that I know, just in front of me, smoking cigarettes, and I'm good. I remember talking to Jimmy. I'll be at Jimmy's house, and me and Jimmy used to chain smoke all the time. We're both car salesmen, just chain smoking. I'm at Jimmy's house, and I'm just like, bro, I quit.
I remember that. He was telling me, like, okay, bro.
Yeah, like, he was like, okay, you know, like, here's the pack right here. We're ready to grab them, right? And I'm like, bro, now, like, I really don't need to smoke. But that was the test when I went to Jimmy's house, and I'm like, yo, I really don't need to smoke. Wow. This is crazy. Yeah.
So let me give backstory, like, for people that don't know. My husband grew up with a family of Jehovah Witnesses. So, like, he grew up in some kind of religion, but he never really subscribed to that. And then as he got into adulthood, he was kind of like, I'm good off the concept of God, the idea of God for a while, right? Like, I know you said there were moments where you were kind of like searching for God, like you were still trying to like figure things out, but he was never a prayer. He was never the type of person that's, I'm going to pray to God and I'm going to, you know.
I would try.
He would try, yeah.
Ways, but it was always
like a bartering thing.
Tit for tat kind of prayer.
Okay.
Like, God, I'll never do this if you do this.
Okay. So like that, right? So something like this for him is big, because at the time, I don't even think you still weren't really had any relationship with the Lord. You didn't really pray often, right? So for him to just sit in the car and be like, God, like, just free me from this, and the way that God, like.
And that's the first time I've ever talked. Like, anytime I pray, it would always be like in my head. That's the first time I verbally spoke directly to God. And I feel like that was probably the first time that I ever, like, tapped into that. You know what I'm saying? That's the first time I picked up the phone, dialed the right number, and talked like, and it was immediate. It wasn't from a place of like, because anytime I used to pray before, it was like, God, like, I know, like, it was just like a just in case you're real kind of. This time it was like, nah, like, please do this for me. Right. Please do this, because I'm so tired of doing this. Yeah. Like, it was.
That's why it was big.
It was crazy, yeah.
So the reason why I wanted to share the backstory is because he and I got into a conversation talking about what we feel like deliverance was. So let's fast forward to the next moment where you thought, okay, I'm being delivered from something. And you don't have to get into all the details, but just talk about that experience and what you thought it was and what you realized now. Because he told me, like, I thought that what I went through was deliverance, but I'm realizing it wasn't that. So share what you think it was.
So the situation was, I had took some like CBD gummies, and you know, I just I don't know. I started freaking. I had a panic attack.
Yeah.
And I after calming down and after realizing that like I'm still like this in the same kind of place mentally that I tried to get away from.
Yeah.
That was when I like I'm sitting on the toilet and I just had the crazy overwhelming urge to just tell you everything. Like to just completely come clean with everything I've ever done. And it felt good to do that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was deliverance.
And I thought so too.
And I don't know why I thought that was deliverance. Maybe it's because someone said the word or something.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until recently when I thought back on it. I thought back to, because remember we started talking about deliverance that one day.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know why people talk about this, because what were we talking about? We
were talking about at the time, we were talking about what we feel like Christians believe deliverance is versus what it really is. So what I said to him was, okay, the term that I would use is, well, God can heal you from something, right? Like being healed from a thing. And he was like, well, you kind of got to stop using that terminology because, so we kind of veered over into like deliverance. And so I was explaining that I feel like a lot of Christians look at deliverance as God sets you free and you never have to deal with that thing again. Whether it's a temptation or it's an addiction, you're just done. You're set free from it. And he had a different opinion. So share what you feel like your opinion is.
Yeah, so my opinion was that it's weird. So it's like my opinion was that that's not what deliverance is, if there even is a such thing as deliverance. But I was speaking from a place of
share what it was though, because share what you told me that day.
My opinion was. I forgot what my opinion was. It was more along the lines of like I think people take that term and they put it towards like, oh, you're just gonna be free from anything from then on. And I'm like, why would you not get tempted with things still? Because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Jesus was a perfect man. He didn't need deliverance from nothing.
Right. And
he's tempted in the wilderness. So why do you think, oh, I'm delivered?
Right.
So you just Jesus now? Right. Like it don't make sense to me.
So his standpoint was he feels like people have this idea of deliverance again, that it's one and done, and like you just won't be tempted, and like almost like even if you are, you just never do it again. And so I was explaining to him that I kind of felt the same way, like some Christians don't really, like they forget that you can still be tempted even in deliverance. Like you're delivered from something, it's like, oh, I'll never have that issue again, I'll never have the urge again. So that's where your mindset kind of was. And that's when he started talking about Jesus, like, well, Jesus was tempted. And I was like, well, I hope that Christians understand that temptations will still form, right? Temptations will still come. And you were like, well, you'd be surprised that some people don't. Some people believe deliverance is one and done. I've heard people say deliverance is a process. So that's what you felt like it was. What do you think deliverance is now? And then that day that you were on the toilet, what do you think that was?
I think that was just a regular,
maybe like just repentance or like confession,
honestly,
right?
like a form of repentance.
Okay.
But I think what deliverance is what it was with the cigarettes. And it's like, even in that conversation, I completely forgot about the cigarettes. Like I'm not even thinking about that the same way, because I'm referring back to when I'm sitting there telling you about all that stuff. Because then later on, I'm like, oh, so what? Because I've watched porn since then, like I'm not delivered. Right. Like in my mind, I'm like, that's just the dumbest thing ever. Like, what are these Christians talking about? But it didn't dawn on me until I remembered the cigarettes, and it's like, okay, I think deliverance is a thing, but I think it's very specific to a certain kind of bondage, if that makes sense.
So yeah, expound on that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so when we say deliverance, I feel like it's used as a blanket statement, because I don't even know too much about other Christians' beliefs, but I think deliverance is used as a blanket statement to cover a whole variety of sins. And like, if you're delivered, then like, oh yeah, you're just never gonna sin this certain sin again. And it's like, I don't think that's what it is. I think there's this thing called bondage, and just because you're committing a certain sin over and over again, be it pornography, be it smoking cigarettes, be it smoking weed, be it coveting, like that doesn't necessarily mean you are in bondage, because you could be choosing to do something every single time. When it came to cigarettes, I was in bondage. I did not want to smoke anymore, but I could not smoke. Like I could not do it. My
Yeah.
body was addicted
Yeah.
to smoking. Like I needed to smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Heroin addicts need to do heroin.
Right.
Alcoholics need to drink.
Yeah.
If they stop drinking, they can die.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not that serious with cigarettes because you
Right.
can quit
Yes.
with enough willpower.
Mm-hmm.
You can quit. You can quit cold turkey.
Yeah.
Heroin, I don't even think heroin is one of those things where you can't quit cold turkey. You can die like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like people like to use the term bondage also as a blanket statement to cover a whole bunch of things.
Anytime you sin, it's bondage. That's what people believe.
Yeah,
people
like I feel like you know.
But that kind of makes sense. So it's like deliverance is possible, or deliverance should be saved for when you are in bondage, and not just
you are in bondage,
not just like a regular. I'm smoking weed and I'm falling short, or I watch pornography again.
Right, because I think if that's the case, then there would be a whole like there's always this shiny exit door that you can just run to called deliverance, and you're good now. But then suddenly you do it. There's a bug. Suddenly you do the thing again, and what? Now you're not delivered. But but like, because when I think back to my cigarettes, like I still to this day don't need to smoke cigarettes. I never need to smoke cigarettes again. Like I think it is a one and done sort of situation.
But it's if you're in bondage.
Yeah, I think it's in regards to bondage. Because there's been multiple times where this is gonna sound crazy because again it's almost like I'm blaspheming God, because it's like I've picked up a cigarette and tried to smoke it. I cannot smoke cigarettes. Like I smoke a cigarette, I can't even inhale it. It's disgusting. I have to spit. I can't finish the cigarette. Definitely not. Like it's disgusting to me. Like I couldn't become addicted to cigarettes again if I wanted to.
If you wanted to,
I couldn't. But I mean, then again, that's just my personal experience.
Right, that's true. Yeah. So do you think so maybe bondage is more so like whatever has become an addiction? Because like pornography, I think you can be in bondage with pornography, right? Like, I
think you can.
Right, have an addiction to that.
I think you can, but I think in most situations, it's not an addiction. Like even with me, right? I could think that I have a pornography addiction, but it's really a choice that I'm making constantly. And another thing, like I like to liken it to is the devil isn't gonna change something that he likes, right? Like if he knows you're gonna go and choose that, he don't need to put shackles on you. Like he knows you about to go and do that. He don't have to do much, and he's gonna leave you alone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and with that being said, I mean, it's kind of like when we think about what an addiction is something that interferes in your day-to-day life, no matter what. That means, okay, yeah, you watch pornography. Do you do it while you're at work? Do you do it at times you're not supposed to? Like can you really not stop yourself from running to the car and rubbing one out real quick? Like, are you really addicted to pornography, or are you choosing to watch pornography? You know what I'm saying? Because somebody that is addicted to that stuff, they're getting fired from their jobs because they got caught watching pornography. They have, it's like
it's deeper than
there's
that.
levels to it. Like I don't think you're addicted to pornography. I think you're choosing to watch that
pornography, and there's a difference between like your choices and like, okay, I'm in bondage.
I think there's a difference.
I'm bound.
That's my opinion. That's just my personal opinion.
So do you think that when you have been delivered from bondage, can the temptations rise? So like with the cigarettes, you're not really tempted, right? Like there's no real temptation.
No, but again, no, yes.
You think so?
But yes, but no. So it's like I'll liken it to Jesus. I don't know what it was like for Jesus to be tempted into it. I know his temptations was probably, he was a perfect man.
Yes.
But imagine you're in the wilderness for how many days?
40.
40 days?
40
imagine days. You're perfect. He's never sinned.
Yeah.
I'm sure a piece of bread sounded mad good.
Of course,
after 40 days.
Yeah, for sure.
And if that can happen, of course, if you're delivered from something, why would you think you can't be tempted to do the thing again?
Yeah.
But with that being said, just how Jesus said, just, flee from me, or
go and sin no more. That's what he would say.
It's so much easier for me to, like, very rarely do I get tempted with cigarettes, but if I ever get that feeling, the voice is not as loud as it used to be. Like if I see somebody on the TV smoking a cigarette, it used to be like, oh man, like the voice in my head is literally like, oh, that looks mad good right now. A cigarette would be mad good right now. Now I see a cigarette on the screen, and I don't even hear it.
Wow.
I don't hear it at all.
Yeah.
It's not until I'm around somebody that I'm close to, like I'm around Juan and I see him smoking and he's just constantly taking cigarette breaks. And it's almost like I'm not even tempted with the cigarette itself. It's almost like I'm tempted with the camaraderie of smokers.
That comes with, okay, I
like
see what you're
being
saying.
in the smoke pit, smoking, like, it's just a weird thing.
Yeah,
like, like the repetition of it, I kind of miss holding one in my hand because I'm talking to him and now I'm that person that's not smoking. So it's like, it's almost like that's the thing that I'm tempted with. It's not even the cigarette itself.
Just to be
it's
back in familiar place.
Yeah, it's just to hold one in my hand, to flick it, to ash it, to do this, like to light it, like, Because
that was a habit for so long.
Exactly.
You were 16.
That's what it is, yeah. But it's not the cigarette itself because I know it's disgusting. Like, as soon as I hit that, I'm like, ugh.
I don't need this no more.
Yeah,
wow, this conversation really went a different way. Because I thought we were just going to be like, all right, let's share our opinions. Because when he was telling me how he felt about it the other day, he was real passionate about it. Like, yeah, like you guys are seeing deliverance all wrong. I don't understand. Yeah. Now it's completely different.
Because I completely forgot.
You forgot about the cigarette.
I was talking to Marty and I was telling him, I was like, yo, did I ever tell you how I quit cigarettes?
Yeah.
Because remember that night I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I still have that app. I should open
we checked it. Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, my opinion on it changed for sure.
Well, I think the way that you broke it down is good too.
Like
no, it's okay. No, it's all right because we're talking. It's cool. But I think that the way that you broke it down is good though. And I think it also may convict certain people because like you said, it's like maybe some people use I need to be delivered as almost like a safety net. Like, oh, I just need deliverance. But no, you're actually just making the choice. And so now people will be able to decide, okay, I'm not in bondage. I just got to not make the choice.
That's my opinion.
That's true, but it makes sense though. But it makes sense
because like things are just a choice.
Most of them, it is a choice, which is why Jesus said, "Go and sin no more," because you can make the decision to I'm going to do this or I will not. That's not saying that's going to be easy, but you can decide I'm not going to do this. I'm going to try to do something else. Yeah,
because like again, liking it to alcohol. Like, do you need deliverance if like my one friend, I'm not gonna say his name, but like he's like, yeah, bro, my drink has been a little crazy. I used to be
just like
an alcoholic.
Yes.
The reason I say alcoholic is because it got in the way of day-to-day things.
Yeah,
I was drinking alcohol when I just
woke up in the morning.
Like, I'm drinking. We'll get to that in a second. But my boy calls me and he's like, yeah, man, my drink is getting a little crazy. I'm like, yeah, well, how much you been drinking? He goes, oh man, like like a handle of what's that stuff called with the licorice flavor stuff?
Ew, sounds nasty.
I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, whatever
Jaeger,
it is.
Jaeger. I'll drink a handle of Jaeger, bro, in like 2 days. I'm like, oh, word? He goes, yeah. He doesn't drink past Sunday. He'll drink from Friday evening to Sunday, and he thinks he has a problem, but he has enough discipline to not drink during the work
Any
week.
other days.
You're not an alcoholic.
Right.
You're just choosing to get absolutely just... I can't say the word, but like you're just choosing to get trashed from Friday to Sunday.
Right.
Like, you're not an alcoholic. Me, on the other hand, when I was an actual alcoholic, and I didn't need deliverance from it, I decided to stop drinking alcohol. Well, I didn't decide. During COVID, I couldn't get it anymore.
Right.
But driving to Jersey was too much. But long story short, an alcoholic is a person who I used to wake up in the morning after PT. I would go to work when I was in uniform, and I would take one of those Dunkin' Donuts iced coffees, pour half of it out, fill the half up with Crown. After chugging some Crown, like I would just take some shots right out the bottle of Crown. Then I would go to work, and I would just have the iced coffee right there on my desk every single morning. So much so that Lieutenant Cozy came up to my desk the one day, and he's like, yo, I've always wanted to try this. Like, can I have one? And now this sounds weird because it's just a random dude, but like, when you're in the army, it's like, yo, these people are close. Yes. Like, y'all go out to the field together. Like, you're practically brothers. Like, we're mad close. Like, so close that, like, I didn't even think twice as to what was inside.
It's like, oh, yeah.
That's how much I drank. Like, that's how routine it was. He's like, oh, I've always wanted to try one. Like can I get a sip? I'm like, yeah, go ahead, sir. And he's an officer. I call him sir. Like, yeah, sir, you good? He's my boss. Go right back to work. He goes, Hudson, let me talk to you real quick. I'm like, all right.
Oh my God. And you had no idea the whole time.
I completely forgot that there was alcohol
crazy.
in there. I'm walking with her. I'm like, do. As we're walking out, I see him holding the thing. I'm like, oh, like, like, yo, geek. I'm like, yo, no way. It's over. Like, I'm getting kicked out. So he goes outside. He goes, Hudson, what's good with you, bro? Like, he was like,
you must be down bad.
I'm like, nah, it's not even that, sir. Like, he's good. He goes, yo, I don't ever want to see you with one of these or a thermos or anything ever again. You understand? I'm like, yeah, my fault, sir.
Yeah.
I was still bopped at work on a daily. Like, that was just a regular thing. When I was working at Kalahari, I'm working the overnight shift. Overnights. Not even during the... I'm bopped as a security guard. I'm sitting in the elevator with people. They pissing me off. I'm trying to hold my breath because I know another security guard, Conrad, comes up to me. He goes, dude, you need to chew some gum. Like,
wow, because it's just pouring out of you.
Yeah, like,
wow,
alcoholic,
that's crazy. Yeah.
You know, and I didn't need deliverance to stop drinking.
Yeah.
But somebody who chooses to you know, I sound judgmental, but like somebody that chooses to get drunk and do stupid things or go out and party and go to the club and do dumb stuff needs deliverance. Like,
yeah, no, it's just that you got to step away from that life of sin. But what I will say is, and I want to know your opinion on it, I do think that there are certain people who have addictive traits and things like that are like in the bloodline.
Yeah.
So like somebody may become an alcoholic, where like the type of person where now you have cirrhosis because you were drinking. Is that how you say that? Cirrhosis? Because like you were drinking so much. Like, I do think that that's a thing. I think it's called cirrhosis, where like after a while you're without a drink, you got the shakes. Like, you could die, literally. Like, you get to that point.
It was that kind of bad.
Yeah.
That's how I was drinking. It was that kind of bad because it was around COVID. I thought I had COVID, but it was only because I couldn't drink anymore.
Yeah.
And I just got that crazy, like, I thought it was a flu, but it was really withdrawal. Like, I was going through crazy withdrawal symptoms. Like, I was sick.
Yeah. And I think that can be bondage too. Like, if it's in the bloodline. But like you said, it's anything that's like it's disrupting you. It's disrupting your day. Like, you with cigarettes, you're smoking cigarettes all the time, like multiple times throughout the day. So
and that's another thing. So when it comes to the cigarettes, right? I feel like in that particular moment, I feel like, you know, Christians use deliverance like it's something that, like, oh, you're good. Like, you know, like, you ask for it and he's just gonna give it to you. I think it's more like he knew freeing me from that, because he could have delivered me from drinking alcohol.
That's true.
But he didn't. But it wasn't until I came before him and I asked the way that I did to stop smoking cigarettes, and he used that particular thing right there, not only for his glory, so I'll testify for it, but to prove to me, like, yeah, somebody's listening. I'm listening to you. Here you go. Like, you've asked, here you go.
Like, in your heart, he knew, like, you really want this. Because there are probably other times you're like, man, like, you kind of were, like, informally praying about it, but he knew you didn't really want it. He knew your heart posture about it.
That's when I knew God was real.
Yeah.
As soon as that happened, I was like, oh, my gosh, it's really a thing.
So you got to want it. You got to really, you seek him, come before him humbly.
I think so, yeah.
Knowing that he's the only one that can do this for you.
I think so.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you also got to think, like, the way they say he works in mysterious ways. Like, yo, you could be asking humbly, you could be asking a million times. Like,
that's true.
What if he knows you can do it on your own?
Yeah.
What if he wants you to do it on your own? Like, he can do whatever he wants to do.
That's
so
true.
Who's to say that this deliverance pastor just has to come over to you and speak over tongues and push you on the floor, and now suddenly you ain't gonna do nothing crazy no more? Like, that's absurd to me.
I'm glad you bring up Deliverance Ministry, because honestly, I feel like some of them are fallacies. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't believe in them. Most of them, I feel like people, like, it's very performative. And I think people make Deliverance Ministries an idol because they feel like that is the only way. I got to go to somebody else because they are gifted with this deliverance gift and they have to lay hands on me. I don't believe that.
There's men of God, like, and again, like, I feel like God can use anybody and anything for his glory.
Absolutely.
And I feel like for the longest time, I was listening to this one preacher. Oh, I know that's not myself. I was listening to this one preacher. I'm not going to say his name, just so doesn't seem like I'm trying to discredit him. But I'm listening to this one preacher for the longest, and he helped me through a lot of stuff, and I learned so much from him. But it wasn't until I seen him on, I think it was like Amazon Prime or something. Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of the dudes that I would be watching from YouTube, and they're all like deliverance pastors. And they're in a tent of like a couple hundred people, and they're all getting delivered from demons. And all these people are like,
dragging it like movies.
Literally on the floor.
Theatrical, yeah. I feel the same way, babe. And I hate to even say it because I feel like I'm skeptical
like,
when it comes to that stuff. Yeah, I'm skeptical when it comes to that.
Even if, you know, because, hey, God forgive me. For all I know, it's real. That's what demons sound like. That's what they look like.
Yeah. I feel the same way, babe. I'm right there with you. Trust me, I'm right there with you.
To be on Amazon, a paid for platform, like,
yeah.
Now, God can use anything.
He can.
And anybody.
Yes. But there's a lot of people that come
I'm not
that.
feeling it.
Yeah, me too.
Me personally,
I feel the same way. I'm like, I feel like I could be delivered at home. I feel like me and the Lord can deliver me from whatever I need to.
It's just my personal experience. When I was delivered, I was not on the floor.
Yeah.
I don't know what those dudes were. Because if mine was just, I was addicted to cigarettes and I needed deliverance. I felt those shackles fall off. If he's growling and screaming, what was he into? Like, what? The heck?
It's like different demons.
Different demon.
It's just they have really exploited Deliverance Ministry because people will give everything to go to deliverance, to get delivered from these people. And most of these people probably don't even really operate under the Holy Spirit.
It also, in a sense, it puts a lot of faith in the man.
Of course, absolutely.
Like, so you need that
his hands particularly
to put his hands on your forehead,
right?
And he needs to say something in a language that you can't comprehend,
right?
For a demon that's controlling you to do things that you have no choice over, and then you'll be able to live a good life.
Then you can live a good life, I
call cap.
Yeah. No, look, babe, I agree. You know what? Does the Bible say that deliverance is even a gift?
I don't know.
I don't think that's even a spiritual gift in the Bible that you can get.
I can't begin to speculate because
But okay, well, I'm pretty sure in the Word, deliverance is not a gift that you can have. The gift you can have healing, the gift of healing, but I feel like deliverance has become a very exploited thing, just like the prophetic people that call themselves prophets. Like it's a big industry, and people fall for it a lot, and Christians will believe it because they want to be delivered, but they're going to these people that are probably playing them. But I'm pretty sure deliverance is not a gift, a spiritual gift.
So. And that's another thing, like with anything, test the spirit. But
of course,
even with that dude that I seen, after I saw that, that to me, the Holy Spirit was telling me, this guy, he's gone.
Yeah, your season with him is over.
My season with him is over. Him and his relationship with God, that's his business. But my season with him is
done. Somebody else.
I don't need to be listening to you no more.
Right.
Because I see what you was after. You know what I'm saying? How it's a whole spectacle, it's a whole production, it's a whole...
Yeah, and there's a lot of times where certain pastors will feed you for a season and then you kind of move on because, the Bible talks about you're not on that milk anymore, meaning you can take a little bit more now. So like Pastor Mike Todd, when I first came into my relationship with the Lord, he was one of the pastors I watched all the time. And then it came a certain point in time where God was like, you don't listen to him anymore because I needed more. So I feel like Mike Todd is good for like baby Christians. My opinion about him now has shifted a lot. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to be rude. We're just going to pray for him. But I think there are certain seasons where a certain pastor or ministry will do, and then you kind of got to move on because you need something more. And I'm glad that you said that too, though, because like I want you to also talk about how you feel like your discernment, because I know sometimes you question it, right? So when was the first time you kind of felt like, I think I may have discernment? Like I may have like actual discernment, because I feel like I feel like I've told you before, I think that you have discernment even before your relationship with the Lord.
But I don't know if that's a gift either, though.
Well, I'm not saying that it's a gift, but I mean, no, but it is, though, the gift of discerning spirits, which is the same thing, I think. Whether it's discerning spirits or just discernment in general.
What was the first time?
I don't know. But I remember I used to tell you, like, babe, I think it's discernment. And you were kind of like, I don't know. And I feel like now more you operate in your discernment more, but you may not realize that it's just that you're doing it.
Yeah.
But I remember you saying like, I'm not really sure that I have discernment. I'm not really sure. I don't really trust it, rather. Because you're always, every time this man goes through something where he's like, I feel like the Lord is telling me, he's always like, but I don't know. Like, I could be tripping. Like, I could be crazy. You do that a lot.
What you mean. I thought you meant like by people in general.
All of it. I think all of it. I feel like it all is in one. Because like I think like, because I will say that you do discern people very well. Yeah. And like situations, and you'll come tell me like, well, I don't know, babe, this is how I feel about it.
It could just be me being a good salesman.
Salesman, it could be you being paranoid, but I think it's more so discernment. I think it's more so discernment. Yeah, I do.
But no, that's a fact. Like when I meet people and when I talk to people, like something like usually, let me not even say usually, because that even sounds like I'm trying to make it seem like I'm always like spot on. But like, like it's just like when I say I'm able to put people into like categories, like very specifically. I'm like Zae will be talking about somebody like. Oh yeah, so or we'll bump into somebody at the store and I'll just be like, yeah, I feel like they're the type of person to da 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 and da 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 da. Just have a feeling. Or we meet somebody and they become a friend of ours, and I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, or you'll meet somebody and I'll be like, I don't know about that person because they seem like this, that, and the third, not that. Sure enough, like things will happen and like they'll fall into that category of person. Not good or bad, like it's both.
Yeah, and I think that's your discernment. So like, the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because I know like you're still on the journey, but to show you that God still is present with you, even if you're like kind of, I'm not sure.
I want to put a disclaimer, not a disclaimer, but like I don't hold myself any higher than the dude that I'm talking about that does the.
Of course not.
Because I mean, respectfully, he's done more for the kingdom than I have. Yeah. Even if he's chasing a bag, even if I feel like you know he's discredited to me anyway, but I consider myself the same type of person as like I forgot his name. I think his name is like George something, but or even Cliff.
Cliff, yes.
Like I don't think Cliff is a pastor.
No, he's not.
I think Cliff is just a man that's passionate about God and will debate
he wants
people
to share
and that's his way of evangelizing.
Yep.
I wouldn't compare myself to him per se, but I would compare myself to the podcast that he was on, the dude that used to be friends with like
George. Yeah.
Like he's just a dude who found Christ. He's passionate about it. He's on fire for God, and he wants to talk about that stuff.
Yes.
Like, he's not somebody who's trying to put his ideas on people. He's not somebody that's trying to tell you how to live your life. Like, I'm not trying to do none of that.
Of course. And I don't think anyone's thinking that of you, Babes. I know you are worried about that. Like,
because,
I don't want people
Christians are mad annoying.
Yeah, but that's on them, though, babe. You got to remember that. Like, they can't look at us and take everything we're saying like, okay, I'm write this down because what he's saying is golden. Like, that's on them.
This is how I protect myself. Like,
that's true.
I said it, so.
Of course,
you know, I don't read the comments.
Right,
so if anybody's reading the comments, they'll be stupid if they fast forward to this part of the video.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I mean, if you feel like you got to protect yourself, fine. But if anybody is doing that, that's on them. Like you said, test the spirit. Like, we're just sharing how we feel about our walks, what we think.
People be so crazy about Mike Todd, like, oh, it's like, this man spit in his hand and rubbed it in his brother's face.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Even with pastors, people have to be realistic. Pastors are not perfect. They will struggle and fail, just like we do.
That part, and I feel like that's one of the advantages of growing up in a cult, because it's like I'm so not. Because you can also be so paranoid to block a blessing.
That's true.
But it's like I'm also very wary of man, and regardless of being wary of man, I am fully aware that you do not need any man on earth to connect to the big God. Like that's
absolutely.
After growing up as a Jehovah Witness, like I don't need a pastor, I don't need an elder, I don't need anybody to talk to my heavenly Father. I don't need anybody to put hands on me for anything that I need. You don't need that. That's a fact.
You don't.
But people will really, if they get into this. Same way how this guy's a Republican and he hates his neighbor because he's a Democrat. Christians do it all the time over something so stupid as which church you go into. Like people get into these like what is it, tribalism?
Yeah,
like people become so tribal over the weirdest stuff instead of having a conversation about it. It's just weird.
Yeah, it is all of it. And again, I know that God gives people these roles like, okay, you're called to be a pastor, you're called to do whatever. But again, you don't need to idolize those people. You don't need those people to have a relationship with the Lord. You don't need that, which is also probably why when those pastors do make mistakes, people are so hurt. Like, oh my gosh, because you put them on too high of a pedestal.
That too, yeah. Let's defend them for a second because it's like, I don't know, people like TD Jakes. People like I get who's the other dude that just came
Mike
out?
Todd.
Not Mike Todd, but the dude that just stepped down because he made some type of mistake.
Oh, like, Tony Evans.
Yeah. Who cares? Like, bro, he's a whole man. Like, what do you think?
He's gonna.
TD Jakes went to a party, did some wild stuff. Duh.
Right.
Like, man
literally.
Mad money, like.
No, literally. Yeah.
Duh. Like he's a whole man. That dude is a man. Yes, he's in the position that he's in, but like, I'm not saying show him some grace. I don't really care. I don't need to show him anything. It's just a matter of like, it doesn't surprise me. Like people be acting like it's like they're worse than the person over here that did something because they're in the position that they
position.
Did.
That's what that is.
If anything, it's like, yo, that man, TD Jakes, Tony Evans, Mike Todd, they're gonna be attacked even harder than you are. Because what are you doing for the kingdom? You're not doing anything. Satan doesn't need to do anything with you.
Yeah.
He needs to get those guys because those are the guys that are probably saving way more souls.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, fell short of grace or whatever you want to call it. Like, duh.
And you know what else? What I will say, though, is I also understand why they would feel that way, because when you are in a position like that, you do have more responsibility.
Facts.
So, like, you do kind of have to be more tapped in and doing things. But even if they do fall short, you're not supposed to be as surprised. Like, you're not, like you said, it's not supposed to be like, oh my gosh, he did this. Like you said, he's still a man. He's going to fail. Look at, who was it? David. Was it David? David, who killed old dude to get his wife. Was that David?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. I think that was David.
Had a soldier kill.
Either way, he gave the order, right? We look at somebody like David. We look at somebody like Solomon, who we can see was in very high positions in terms of the Lord. They still made bad decisions. They still made bad decisions.
Moses.
There was repentance.
Even Saul, he was supposed to be where he was until he didn't listen.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, why do we think there's nothing new under the sun? People say that all the time. Why would you expect anything else from these pastors?
Facts.
You know?
It's crazy to me. It's crazy. But hey. I thought about a funny thing. I'll tell you.
Okay. Anything else you want to share, babe? I think this is a good topic. This is a good conversation. It doesn't always have to be an hour, because I also don't want to force it. Like, I don't want to force it. Okay. I'm trying to think what else we can talk about, because I really wasn't expecting this conversation to go this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you think it was going to go?
Like I said, I just thought it was going to be like your opinion you had before was what that was. Like, I thought we were going to be like debating, like that type of thing, you know, like how we were, even though we weren't debating that day.
Well, let's talk about that, because it's like, just how easy it is for me to change my opinion between then and now. Like, my opinion on everything that came out of my mouth for the last 47 minutes could completely change
again
tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Like, same way how listening to somebody and you think that's your teacher, and that can change. Like,
that's true.
We're just human beings.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah.
We're a culmination. Is that the word?
Culmination of what?
We're a culmination of our experiences.
Yes, that makes sense. You know, I don't know if Christians are annoying. I think a lot of Christians are religious, and that's the problem. There's an air of religiousness. I don't even know if that's a word, but that's what it is. They're just religious. And they also grow up a certain way, expecting a certain type of thing. Like, looking at your grandparents, right? Even though they grew up Jehovah's Witnesses, they are literally products of all of that. And that's how most Christians are.
So let me not say Christians are annoying. Let me say, I don't even want to say extremists are annoying. I want to say,
it's them being religious.
What's the word for people that think they're like more holy than thou? It's not pious.
Zealous? Overzealous?
Zealots. Yeah. Like, when you become a zealot, like, that's annoying. Is that the right word?
I think so, yeah.
It's very annoying.
Kind of like Pharisees, right? Like, we still have modern day Pharisees, and that's the problem. Because they're the ones that are like, they do think they're holier than thou. They're very, very, very religious, so they look at everything very black and white, and it's not that black and white. They're very judgmental. Like, and I guess what we can talk about, I guess we can share this too. Like, one thing that I've struggled with because of all of that is going to church. Right? And so I grew up, I went to church, and my grandma, it wasn't all the time, but I lived around the corner from her. So anytime we spent the night into a Sunday, she would make us get up and go to church. So we went through the whole getting up early, got to put on socks with the frills and getting all, then we would go to church and we'd sit there and they're loud and everybody's falling out and they're putting white towels on them. And I'm young. I don't understand why I'm being brought there. Not only that, I love my grandma, but she was also the type of Christian to be like, any bad thing you do, you're going to hell. Oh, you're going to hell. Now, as a kid, imagine hearing something like that. You don't really know what hell is, but you know it's bad. You don't know, you don't want to go there. She would always be like, you're going to hell. So when I got older, I think there was also a couple other times my mom tried to take us to church. We went maybe once or twice. That was it. I didn't like church anymore. I didn't like church. I didn't like how judgmental everybody felt. I didn't like the whole routine of I got to get dressed up and go sit in church. So I stayed away from church for years. So now we're in a place where Donnie, when he was kind of on fire for the Lord, I guess we can say, he was like, I really want community and I want to go to church. And I was like, babe, I can't do it. Like, I cannot go to church. I'm afraid. And I was afraid and I was worried about, just the atmosphere. And I feel like a lot of people go to church and they're fake And I didn't want to have to go through the whole like getting dressed up and like going there to look nice. And if you don't look good,
I'm sorry. That's the perfect thing to defend myself. Like when I say Christians are annoying, first of all, I'm still including myself in that. But I mean, like it's the people that's the annoying thing. Like the people that will drive people away from going to church and fellowshipping with people because instead of going there for a word and doing what you're supposed to do, you gossiping about X, Y, and Z
Sister Edna.
Like it's those people. Like you're annoying. Like what are you doing? Like like that's what you go to church for, to talk about the pastor's daughter who got pregnant out of wedlock, like, because that's your business.
Yeah, and that was my grandma. My grandma, she didn't gossip, but she tried so hard to get me to the Lord that it pushed me away. It had the opposite effect. And so even like with, you said, some people go to church and they're looking at what you're wearing. Like a lot of people go to church just to look good. You got to dress your best, and you just looking at what everybody's wearing on Sunday. And I didn't want to have to deal with all of that. So for a long time, I was like, I can't do it. And he was like, all right, and I told him like I would look and I would pray about it, but I just couldn't.
I really wanted a place to serve. Yeah. That's the wrong reason to look for a church, is for community and friends. And I'm like, well,
I didn't say that it was wrong. I was saying like I don't want that to be the only reason why you want to so badly go to any church, because a part of my fear was we go to the wrong place, someone prays over us or lays hands on us, and now there's more warfare in the house. So
and my thing was like, okay, well, I got to test the spirit, but I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this isn't my domain. Like, I'm just
So he needed me to like, come with me, because there was a time where like he would go to church and we'd be on the phone and I'm listening in because he wants to try it. But then,
a couple Sundays, go to a random church.
But it turned into now, okay, I want you to be there, and I was like, I literally couldn't. I could not. The fear, the anxiety, like I just couldn't do it, because we've already been through so much, and I didn't want to bring warfare, because I've had people that I've talked to where like they go to conferences or things and someone lays hands on them and there's warfare and there's ulterior motives, and I just couldn't do that, because he's already in a vulnerable place spiritually. Our marriage and stuff is already in a vulnerable place. My children, I just can't do it. So it wasn't until recently where I feel like the Lord kind of resurfaced that, and he used 3 people. Two of those 3 people don't know me, don't know what I got going on. He literally used a random woman walking down the block in our neighborhood. And I was like, okay, I think the Lord really wants me to go to church. So I called one of my good friends, Lisa, and I'm just like, I think we need to go to church. She's looking up churches for me. Didn't see none of them, right? So then there was another woman that I spoke to, and she had reached out to me and was like, oh, I'm going to this brand new church. And she told me this weeks ago. So I decided, all right, let me look up this church. So I decided to like look up some sermons, and I was like, all right, we'll give it a try. I showed Donnie. He's like, all right, we'll give it a try. So I think it was recently on a Sunday, I tuned into their sermon live, and I heard the pastor speak, and like I knew that that's where we needed to go. Like I was comfortable, I had peace. He was genuine. He didn't talk about tithes for the first 20 minutes of the sermon, because that will turn me away too. If all you're talking about is money. He didn't mention tithes not one time. He showed his heart. He was like very passionate about being a pastor, but also he was very humble, because he knew, I know God called me to this, but I'm not always ready. Like I get up on this stage, I still don't feel like I'm good enough.
That's an excellent point. So to the point of, because one of the things that bothered me was, this is sidebar before that, but one of the things that bothered me with you not going to a church was, I was like, like if everybody had your outlook on it, then you wouldn't have anybody listening to you. You know what I'm saying? True. It was like, I didn't want you to be a hypocrite. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, it's like, what was I about to say? The tithes, right? Because our big thing, because like another thing is, I don't want to sit here and have people thinking that, we just don't believe
don't want to do it. Right.
Because my mentality was, and this is what I used to think was, my mentality was, and the Jehovah Witnesses is a cult, but one thing that I liked about it is, or how they did things is, nobody will be standing there asking you for money or telling you that it's your obligation to give money.
Right. Or so this amount, so that amount.
Boxes in certain areas.
Yeah.
And you put the money in there. And that's it.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a speech about it. There wouldn't be nothing about it. But now at the same time, every single time a pastor talked about giving money and why it's your duty, and taking up an hour of the service to hold the collection plate around and have it keep going so people will feel bad and eventually give the money, like that turned me off.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until this dude, because that sermon that you listened to, he didn't talk about money. The one that I listened to, he did. But when he did, it was different. And when he did, I literally felt like, you know what, like I am gonna give my 10%. Like anything the business makes, I'm gonna give my 10%. We had that conversation.
Yeah.
Because again, these are all just opinions.
Yeah.
So my opinion of tithes and offerings changed just hearing that man speak about it.
Yeah.
And when he spoke about it, I felt like, you know what, this is our house as well. So if we're going to be attending this church, it's our duty to maintain this church too, and to give your 10%. And the way he put it was basically like, nothing is yours anyway. It's all God's.
Right.
And he's only asking for this much. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I could do that.
And I'm glad you said that, because I'm not against tithes. My thing was, I am wary about who I give my money to. My mindset was, I would rather give it to a nonprofit or to the homeless or help somebody that I know that needs money than to give it to the church, because I didn't know where it was going to. Right. I didn't trust nobody.
It's not even like you don't want to give your money to God.
Right.
It's like, I don't want to give my money
to that person.
Like,
right.
I don't trust that.
Right. Because how do I know what you're doing with it? And I know even that is wrong, because we could say that about giving money to homeless people, right? Like, well, I could give the money to the homeless person and he'll buy drugs. That's not on me, right?
Here's an excellent point too, because Mario was talking about it, and it was like, it's hard to say God is good when you have holes in your shoes. So it's like, you see a pastor and he has a whole bunch of nice things. You're wary to give him your money, because you're like, what are you doing with the money, bro? You have a boat, you have a pool, you have a 4-car garage, so you got an Escalade. Like, bro, why am I giving you money?
Yeah.
But then if you think about it, that guy could be doing something fishy.
He could.
That's his business. I've seen him and God.
Right.
Like, the real thing about it is, like, of course, if you're living right, God is going to bless you. So, I mean, if you are a man of God and you are living right, like, why wouldn't you have nice things?
Right.
And, like, that's what my neighbor was talking about before. And I kind of wrote him off as just, I was like, okay. Like, I wasn't even saying anything about that, bro, but all right. But nah, it's a fact.
Yeah.
Because it's like, God is great, but I have holes in my shoes.
I hear that, but I also, and this is my opinion, I do think that when pastors go to church, you should dress modestly. I do. Because one thing that I don't like is the whole, you got to dress to the nines to go to church. Why? Jesus wasn't even dressed to the nines when he was doing what he was doing. I don't agree with everybody, all decked out. Like, look presentable, but you don't have to wear chains and like $2,000 shirts and shoes and be all gaudy. You don't need that. Like, you just don't. That's my opinion. Be modest as the pastor, because I think it also teaches modesty and humility. I have this money, but I don't have to show it off. I don't have to wear a $2,000 shirt to the sermon on Sunday. I'm here for 2 hours maximum.
It's that part. Like, I don't have anything against like dressing
right
and dressing flashy. It's when you're dressing in certain designer, like, and you're wearing like the gaudy designer, so like, and it's like, it's clearly because you want to show off,
right?
Like certain brands, like, Versace is gonna have a giant Medusa head, like that's already demonic as it is, like that's Greek, or was it Greek or Roman mythology?
Greek mythology, I think.
But like, what are you wearing Versace for? Like, you're supposed to be a man of God. Like, that's a whole demon head on your belt buckle. That's kind of crazy. I've had a Versace buckle. And he literally gave it away. Preaching.
That too. Even Balenciaga, like we know what these brands are when we see them.
Like, it's kind of.
And it reminds me of Mike Todd. Mike Todd would get up on stage and he dressed to the nines. I mean, sometimes the outfits don't even make sense. And I'm not trying to judge, right? Because he has his own walk. But I'm not judging. I'm giving my opinion. I think that more pastors should dress modestly on Sunday. You don't need to wear, all that stuff. Save it for another time. You know what I'm saying? Because like, you could wear it. You go to a lot of events and things. Save it for that. But it don't need to be on a Sunday, because that also pressures people in the audience to feel like they have to look a certain type of way. And it also causes more people to judge you. I was watching this show and they were like, well, why you rich? You got all this money, you look good, but your audience look the way that they look. You know what I'm saying? And like, I feel like you should represent the church the way that you want to represent the Lord. And the Lord is very humble and he wouldn't do all of that.
I was going to disagree with you, but no, but I do agree, because I was gonna say nah, because I mean, yo, if you want to be flashy on stage, like, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like it's a brand thing, but at the same time, it's like nah, because sometimes even when I go to certain things, it's like you look at an outfit and be like, is this too much?
Yes.
Sometimes you're doing
too much.
Like,
Yeah.
you know you're doing too
Way
much.
too much.
Because if anything, you could be distracting somebody from the actual
that part.
word.
Absolutely, because you got on all this loud stuff.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of
yeah, and that's just my opinion. Like, people are gonna do what they want, but if I was a pastor, I'm gonna show up in a simple tee, some jeans. Like, you don't have to look bummy, but you can look put together and still give the word. Because even being up on stage, like looking that way, I feel like in your mind, when you look good, like in your mind, you're thinking like, I wonder what people think about what I'm wearing right now. So I can only imagine those pastors up on stage, they already kind of have like this air about them because they know people love them and will kind of give them this praise. Not only that, but you dipped out. So in your mind, I know you're probably also thinking like, okay, what are these people thinking about me and how I look and what I got on? It's just a distraction. But anyway, yeah, we're not against tithes. I wasn't against tithes. I also wasn't against the church. I was just weary about, I need the right church. My thing was like, I need the right church. It's something Babe said to me was like, well, Babe, like anything could happen at any church. Because I was like, well, I want the Lord to tell me where to go. He was like, well, anything could happen at those churches. And, that's true. But I was just like, I got to feel it. Because, like, it's too much of a commitment for me to make. And it did not be good.
My thing with the big churches was I wanted to go somewhere where I'm needed.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to go somewhere where everything is established and I'm just a person in the crowd. Like, I want to go somewhere where I can actually do something.
Serve,
where I can actually help. Like, I don't want to just go to this big church because they got all the amenities and they got all the. There's nothing wrong with going to a big church, but
you want it to be more personal. I think where we are.
Personal, I literally want to serve.
You want to serve there. Okay, but I feel like it's best to do that when it is a personal, small, intimate church.
I feel like it's easier.
Because the bigger one, somebody's already probably doing everything, a little bit of everything. But yeah, that was a big thing for us too for a while. Like us disagreeing on going to church, when and why. I couldn't do it.
That part.
Where you're needed.
Like I want to go somewhere where I'm needed. Like not just like, because like you can serve in a big church, but do they need you?
Do they need you,
right?
I
want to go somewhere where I'm needed,
And that was a good thing about this church we found too. That sermon that I watched, he was talking about, I guess people were complaining that the church wasn't all done up how the other churches were. And he got emotional because he's like, I'm new to this church. I'm already struggling like as a pastor being confident in it. And y'all are complaining. He basically was saying in a better way than this, but he was basically saying, y'all can serve. Like, I'm here from this day to this day at this time. Y'all want to come help straighten up, you can. Like, help me, help the church, And that was that sold me. I saw his humility. I saw that, like, he knows what the church needs, but, like, he was so nice. He was just, it was really cool. I really enjoyed it. So now, that's another thing we're about to try is going to church. And
worship music was a little iffy, to be honest
Stop. That's another thing, right? I feel like, and this is another opinion of ours. And this is maybe because I haven't been to church in years, but I feel like worship should not be the first 30 minutes of the service. Like, that's crazy. 30 minutes?
No, here's an unpopular opinion. I think people do worship wrong. I don't know who said this or if anybody said this already, but my thing is, and I think maybe this is a popular consensus. Is that the right word?
I don't know.
I'm gonna sound like T.I., but like, yo, if I can sing really, really well, and I have these musicians behind me that play music really, really well, and everybody in the crowd is looking at us, like if somebody says something like, yo, if you took some of these worship sessions at churches and Beyonce's concert and you muted all the audio, you wouldn't see
You wouldn't know the difference.
If I'm on stage and we're all worshiping God, why am I facing
the audience?
We should all be singing that way.
Yeah.
With our hands that way. Because that's
we're all
general
area.
Why are y'all all clapping, looking at me, and why am I singing all to y'all, and why are the drums and the bands all
looking at you?
This is a performance. This is not worship. And it's going to be weird because why would everybody be faced the other way? Just because we're not used to it.
But it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
And a perfect analogy is when you get on American Airlines flight to go anywhere, you're facing the same way as the pilots, right? That's death.
Yeah.
That's literally death. the proper way to sit in an airplane, if you're in like a military airplane, you're going to be facing the other way because you're less likely to die. You're probably still going to die.
Probably.
But like, you're less likely to die if you're facing the back of the plane. But if you were facing the back of a plane on a commercial flight, you would be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So they simply just face you forward. Regardless of the safety benefits of being faced backwards, they face you forward.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
Yeah,
like,
that's a good
why
point.
are y'all facing that way?
And you know why I also think that's a great point? Outside of like, you know, you're watching these people perform, I feel like when you have those intimate moments with the Lord where you're worshiping, no one should be facing each other. Like, let's all look in one direction, let's worship, and let's just you and God. You know what I'm saying? Because like that's also another thing. The pastor's up on stage and he's looking down at all these people that are worshiping him. So they're all facing him and they're worshiping. Some are crying, some are on their knees. We should all be able to do that without having anybody watching us. You know what I'm saying? Like looking at us. We're all just in that moment, bow down if we need to, crying if we need to. Nobody can see us because we're all facing one direction. You know what I'm saying?
I feel the same. I know you're wrong. And I mean, I guess it's different when it comes to the preacher actually teaching something to the
if he's giving the sermon, if he's giving the sermon,
he's talking to y'all, you know what I'm saying? But then when it comes time to pray, like the way I would do it is I would be turned around and I would be leading us all in prayer and I would be facing the opposite way just because and I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean God is that way.
Right.
But it's just a matter of like, I'm leading you all. Like I'm sure Moses, if you guys are the Israelites, I'm sure Moses wasn't walking like this. I'm sure he wasn't. I'm sure he was walking.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? Like, is that if you're leading somebody, you're facing the same way as them.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I hear you, babe. Again, these are just our opinions. This is just what we feel.
I'm getting tight. Because like certain stuff.
Once you start getting up.
This is the type of things that's like Christians. When I mean Christians, I mean the zealots. I mean people who have grown up in church. People that have they're indoctrinated with certain
religious,
beliefs that somebody like me, I grew up in a cult, so like when I'm stepping outside of things, I look at things differently and I think more. I think more freely. So when it comes to certain things, I'm like, this just don't make sense.
Yeah, of course.
And like somebody that's indoctrinated would be like, no, that's dumb.
Like the Pharisees.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep,
like,
just like the Pharisees. Jesus came and Jesus said something different. The Pharisees are like, nah, that ain't it. Because again, they're in a box. That's all they can see.
Doctrine.
Right. So they hear somebody like you, like, what you talking about?
That's what y'all worried about? That's what y'all worried about. Meanwhile, I know everything you did last night. Okay.
That is so funny, but yeah, babe, that's true. Again, these are just our opinions. Like, and honestly, we're not trying to judge, but like, we're just sharing our opinions, what we think about certain things, like
and it's not that
all of that.
It's not. It's just
but you just know how people are.
That's how I would do it. If I had a church, everybody worshiping, everybody's facing that way.
A general area.
There is no reason for y'all to be singing to us. There's just no reason for it.
I agree.
And then another dude that said something cool about it was like gospel music, and he was like, you got to be careful with certain worship music because it's like it's a lot of it's a lot of me. It's like, why is this music like,
about
everything
you.
God do for me?
What God can do for you.
Are we worshiping? Like, it doesn't sound like we worshiping. I forgot who he is. He's a black dude on YouTube.
Yeah, but that's a great point. That's a great point.
And I know you had you had some qualms about gospel rap. Like me personally, I don't have a problem with gospel rap. I have a problem with gospel trap. Like I have a problem with music that sounds
the beats that sound like the secular music
too much to Future. Like why does it sound like Metro Boomin made this beat, bro? Like now, granted, okay, you could say that that's a compliment because Metro Boomin is an A-list producer, but we don't know the spiritual ramifications of certain frequencies and certain sounds. When it comes to anointings and when it comes to gifts, a certain singer is given a certain anointing, and that's why their singing sounds like it. Like somebody singing the same worship song, it's different if somebody has the anointing for it and you'll feel it. Like it does something to you. And I feel like music is, it's one of those gateways to the soul.
Absolutely.
And it's like some of that music, it's like, when you do certain things, you don't know where you're pulling it from because everything comes from somewhere. So even if you're somebody like me, I make music all the time, and I can download a beat that's like gospel rap on YouTube. I don't know if the dude making that isn't just smoking weed in his bedroom, putting some stuff together like Kanye type beat.
Yep.
And and I'm rapping to it, and I'm thinking it's something that's inspired by God, when really a demon was giving him them ideas. You tapped into something else.
Yes,
you know what I'm
and that was my thing with it too. My thing was like also certain beats you hear is like when you hear certain gospel music, it makes you want to praise and worship. Your posture, your stance is different. Yeah. When you hear certain gospel rap or trap music, that beat makes you want to shake something. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a very thin line between like gospel rap and like, cause I understand people want to like change the culture and bring Jesus into it, which is great. But like if I hear a gospel trap song and the beat is like, okay, like you said, it sounds like something Metro Boomin did, I'm not thinking like to raise my hands in worship. I'm thinking I'm finna shake some real quick because this beat is dope. You know what I'm saying?
And
like
I see the argument for it, because it's like, yo, like I could be listening to way worse stuff.
Yes.
Like true, but like that's the thing with vaping and cigarettes. Like, yo, I could be smoking cigarettes,
right?
But I'm vaping.
But I'm vaping instead. Like, there's still.
And now, granted, we don't know if there's anything really wrong with gospel rap or gospel trap, whatever you want to. I'm just saying, be careful, because you really don't know. Like,
I agree. That's what my
fake e-cigarette, and you thinking it's
that is safe, and then you find out like, oh crap, is just as worse as cigarettes. I mean, just as bad.
Too. Yeah, it's like you never know.
Yeah, that was my stance on it too, and I did talk about that. I made a video about that too, because I'm like, this is such a thin line, and people are kind of like stepping over that line now. Like, there's a boundary.
I like it, yo. Some of it, like, and I feel like you can definitely tell the difference.
Absolutely.
Like, not only can you tell the difference in the beats, but you can tell the difference in the people who are actually called to do that. Because I heard one dude that was rapping. And I can tell I don't have that anointing, because when I try to make that music, it don't work.
Yeah.
I can only make music that's not good. Like, I can't make music for God. I just can't make that. I don't have a relationship with him. But I forgot who the dude was. I hate that I can't give him his flowers. But the way he was putting these
is he a light-skinned dude?
I don't know. I don't know. I just heard the lyrics. But like, yo, the metaphors and the setups, the punches, yo, it was crazy. It was good, yeah. Like, it was almost like the way the Bible is like hyperlinked all back to, it was like phenomenal.
Yeah,
and it was like,
good.
Okay, like that makes you want to be a Christian. Like, I can tell, like, this is one of the good ones. Like, I just know it.
Yeah,
I don't know,
because you can see the anointing on it.
Yeah, like you can see the anointing on it. Like, yo, mad thought went into this. Not only did mad thought went into this, but you're not just a person that's just trying to get this quick cash grab with this gospel stuff. Like, no, like you really
thought about this,
God.
And you put your soul into
God.
it.
I can hear it in the music. Like, you can tell the amount of when you put your pen to the pad, like you're really doing it for God. Like, you can see the amount of work in it. Like, it's just different.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another thing I be feeling about too. No, that's good. Yeah. No, I feel the same way about that music. Yeah, I do.
I should have been this awake in the beginning.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It was only like, what, 2 minutes that you weren't. Yeah, it was like the very beginning. It's cool. I think this is a good convo. I think we really got into, shared our opinions.
People lasted this long. Well, they said Christians are knowing, like.
Okay, well, you know what? I think this is a good episode. I think we can. No, leave her. She's asleep. So anyway, y'all, I hope that y'all weren't offended by this. I hope y'all weren't feeling judged or condemned, because we really are just sharing our opinions and our thoughts and our feelings about things, which is what this is all about. And I know the podcast is called For Your Good, and I did say, like, I want like this podcast to like be people's reminders that like everything does work out for your good. And I feel like we can bring everything we talked about today, like everything works out for our good, like him and the cigarettes and being delivered from the cigarettes, and like even the way that his thought process changed about the deliverance, like all that stuff is good stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I thank y'all for tuning in. You can follow us on Instagram at foryourgoodpod, my personal Instagram page at Zae Hudson, TikTok, Zae Hudson, YouTube, Zae Hudson, where you can watch like the full visuals of each episode. So thank y'all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.